In this lesson, we'll explore how we can sketch another caricature of Sean Connery by emphasizing specific facial features. All right, so I'm really happy with how our first caricature of the great Sir Sean Connery has turned out. Just having a lot of fun with this one. So we really wanted to kind of emphasize his bald head, really kind of making that more bulbous. So we started off with that kind of large circular shape, and then from there we kind of put in all the other defining facial features that really make Sean Connery who he is. But we wanted the initial attention to be drawn to that forehead. So what I'd like to do for this lesson is to just really push all of these other facial features even further, especially down here with the mouth. Just the way that he talks. He kind of talks like this. That really interesting Scottish accent that he has where he kind of purses those lips. I'd really like to push that quite a bit. And then in addition to that, I'd really like to exaggerate even further this arched eyebrow. So we're going to still kind of have his forehead be somewhat large, but it's not going to be the primary focal point. We're going to really kind of pull a lot of that focus down here into the facial area. Okay, so we'll go ahead and hide that and start getting our blocking worked in here to begin with. So I'm just starting off with that circular shape just for the cranium, kind of loosely blocking that in. But now I'm really thinking about just the lower part of the face. I'm almost kind of working in kind of a diamond shape, just kind of thinking about this portion down here. And if you kind of look at the way his beard is trimmed and the way his lower face looks, it's almost kind of like a pointed diamond shape kind of down towards the bottom. Okay, so I'm kind of thinking about that as I block that in. From here, I'm just kind of working in a guideline, kind of dividing this overall form, kind of trying to figure out where I want to place his eyes, as well as the ear. And then just kind of thinking about the nose. He's got that really sharp nose, and I really want to kind of emphasize just the tip of that nose. If you look at the tip on some of these, I really want to kind of emphasize just the sharpness of that nose, just pushing it even further. And then just also thinking about just that eyebrow again, really kind of exaggerating it, really bringing it up just a lot higher while having that other one just kind of scrunched down even further. So taking both of those really to just higher extremes. And then just kind of thinking about that mouth, really maybe kind of closing it a little bit more, kind of pursing it just a little bit more to really make it look like he's kind of talking the way he does. And if you look at his lips, he's got these very kind of thin lips, but that lower lip is very kind of pushed out. It's kind of very plump and pushed out, but he's got these thin lips. So that's kind of why I'm making this kind of straight kind of upper line right there as I kind of rough in the overall shape of his mouth right in here. So I really just am itching to jump on this eyebrow area. I'm just kind of trying to get a feel of just what it looks like, kind of arcing way up. And then, of course, we're going to have his eye. And I may kind of, since we're going to push that eyebrow to such an extreme, I may even kind of open up his eye just a little bit more to kind of get a little more just emotion in there as well. And again, I'm putting in just wrinkles that I think are the most kind of dominant ones rather than getting super granular. Now, if this were something that was a lot more highly rendered, more painted, something that we do in another caricature course that I have in our library titled Producing Striking Characters in Photoshop, then you could probably get a little bit more granular, but even then, you still don't want to go too far. You want to focus on the primary features that really stand out. And of course, I'll work in that pupil as well. And of course, we have this other eyebrow over here, kind of scrunching it down, almost kind of mashing that other eye kind of in there. So just kind of taking them both to two extremes. And again, just with the forehead wrinkles, just placing in the ones that I feel are the most dominant, kind of like what we see right up there, just kind of drawing over those. And just kind of continuing on, kind of shaping up that eyebrow right there. Let's go ahead and kind of move down and kind of focus on this nose. You got kind of a wrinkle that kind of comes across the nose right there. You can kind of see it right there. Maybe even another little one right there. And then really that tip of that nose is what I want to emphasize. And those nostrils, he's got just some really strong nostrils, I feel. So just kind of flaring that out, really kind of bringing that smile line off the top of that nostril right there. And I might add just an additional line just right there, just to kind of help nail down the form of that tip of that nose, that ball of the nose. Let's work our way down to the mouth now. Again, just kind of trying to nail that down. Just what does that look like? You'll notice, like with this image here, you kind of see part of his front teeth, kind of adding just one line right there in the center without detailing out the teeth, keeping it very simplified in its representation. I think is very effective. And now I can just kind of start to really think about just the outer edge of the face here, just kind of trying to rough in kind of how that cheek will look. Probably have another kind of wrinkle right there, kind of like what we have right there. So those bags under his eyes, just putting in the most dominant elements. Getting in that ear. And with the ear, I'm kind of making it a little bit kind of bent, a little bit kind of asymmetrical, just making it more interesting to kind of complement just the overall kind of peanut shape really that I'm kind of establishing here. I think that kind of helps with the overall kind of form. Kind of start to think about just what that upper mustache area looks like as we start to kind of really flesh out what his beard can really kind of look like as it kind of comes to that diamond point, kind of like what we see right there. And again, with hair, just as I've mentioned with some of these different caricatures that we've drawn here of these different actors, I try to keep it very simple. I'm just focusing on just the overall shape. I'm not getting too overly detailed, too overly granular. Now, as I mentioned, and this is something we do in our course that I just mentioned that's in our library, titled Producing Striking Characters in Photoshop. We're getting in there and doing a lot of painting. Then you can kind of take the opportunity to really kind of detail out the hair if it's something that calls for it. Okay. Let's kind of jump back to the forehead. We've kind of neglected that just a little bit here. You can notice how the top of his head right here kind of comes to a point, even on this one right there. So we may want to kind of accent that, just kind of draw a little bit of visual attention to that. But you notice, again, just kind of this overall peanut shape, as I kind of mentioned. We pulled a lot of the focus off of the forehead. We're kind of pulling it more down here to the lower part of the face, where a lot of the mouth expression, facial expression can happen. And just really trying to emphasize just the sharpness of that nose. We've really kind of called a lot more attention to it, making it just a little bit larger, a little bit more kind of pointy, and then just the mouth kind of closing it just a little bit more to really kind of give us that feel of just kind of the way that he talks. So again, this could be one of those instances where you may want to fire up like a movie or something that he's been in. I kind of find that sometimes that really helps me out in capturing the essence and personality of a caricature like this if you're doing it of a famous person. Kind of like what I mentioned when drawing the Nick Cage caricature. You might want to work up a movie, put a movie on, and you'll find yourself starting to imitate them, like trying to talk like them, especially when you kind of get in here just with the mouth. And so I can't help but just want to talk like Sean Connery when we start to focus on that particular facial expression. Okay. So I hope you've enjoyed watching this course and are able to take just some nuggets of information just from some of my approaches here. Keep in mind that there's no one way, there's no one formula for drawing caricatures of people or famous celebrities or anything like that. But I've just tried to kind of allude to you some of the different things that I think about in regards to just exaggeration, spatial relationships, visual contrast, and even simplifying certain elements. And so thanks for watching, and hopefully you find some of the things that we've talked about very useful as you create your own caricatures. So we'll see you in another course.